Hi, it's Sandra here from Create in Spain, and today I wanted to show you how to make sure that your fold lines on your cards are in the right place. Obviously, if you're holding a card just in half, that's relatively easy, but sometimes you want to do slightly more complicated divisions of your card, and that can cause a few problems. Okay, so if you look at my blog today, you will see pictures of the cards that I've actually made using this file. And this is just a general idea of how to actually work it. You don't have to follow the particular pattern, but it'll give you an idea of how to actually do something similar. So I'm now going to go to page 3 on here because I've just put a line in and I can use this page to show you how to do things without mucking up my original design. Now, you see this line here. A very important thing, I think, is to go into your projects and to find a space that you're going to be able to find it easily and to save this as a project. You can't put it in your shapes library because that is controlled by the software people. It's not yours to mess around with. But put one in your projects. I've put mine into a straight line and I've put it under a couple of different places. Because I don't know about you, but I find drawing a straight line with this pen tool to be a bit of an aggravation. In that I've got to make sure that I do it completely vertically, that I hold the shift key down, that I release the shift key when I should release the shift key, etc, etc. So if you do it once successfully, and again with a horizontal line, just save them and then you can just drag and drop them into your project. Easy peasy. Right, now I'm going to move this out of the way. And I'm going to show you basically what you need to do. So your basic card might be like so. Okay, now if you want to fold this in half, okay, that's relatively easy. Draw your line, put it in there, and go to here and put in center your line to the shape. So that would do it. But what about if you want to divide this into 4 pieces or 5 pieces or 6 or 7? Well, actually, it's very easy to do. And I'll show you exactly how you do it. You take your line and you take your shape and you line them up to the left hand side. And it doesn't matter if they're on the same level here, but they need to be lined up at the left. Okay. Now you then take your line, and if you want 5 sections, for example, you go up to Object, you go to Duplicate, and you tell it that you want 6. So you want one more than the number of sections that you want, and you click OK. And then you select all of these, and you untick Keep Proportions, because if you keep proportions, it's going to make them very long, and you don't want to do that. And all you do is you drag it out then until it meets the end of your basic card shape. And then you will find, hang on a second, I shouldn't have done that. You need to group them. Always a good idea to group them when you've done this. There we go. And then you can group them to your card like so. And I'm just going to change the colour of this because it's very difficult. Actually, I'll just make it transparent. Very difficult for you to see the lines. And now if I just move this over here, you see it a bit easier. So you now have your lines in equal proportion and they're spaced out beautifully and you don't have to worry about it. Now the one thing that you do have to do now is to select this little lot and ungroup it or break it apart. You'll probably find I've got to break it apart again. There we go. And you just want to take off your end lines and delete them because you don't want those lines there. You don't want it cut twice. So you now have your lines where you should have them, and you can obviously make that, whoops, I should have unchecked that keep proportions again. It's always going to nag me if I don't do it. Okay, and you can make them the appropriate length that you require for the height of your card. God, I'm brain dead this afternoon, really am. So that's basically how you do it. Now you notice that in the previous page, I had a little sticky out bit here. And it's important to know that if you are doing something like this, I want this piece here to overlap the front section. So basically these two lines here and here are going to meet in the center. So when I am calculating the start and the end of my card project, I do not include the sticky out bit, okay? I leave that out of the equation altogether and I just line up to these edges, all right? So that's the first thing that I wanted to go over with you. Now the next thing that I wanted to make sure that you're aware of is the print and cut. You notice I got this little cupcake here, and it doesn't matter what print and cut it is. If I move my various bits here, okay, move them well off the mat, and then I go to my cutter and I tell it I want to do a print and cut. And then I say, okay, I'm going to cancel that. I'm going to do a preview and I'm going to ask it to show me the registration marks. And you would expect to see the registration marks here, and you're not seeing them here because you are seeing the registration marks somewhere else entirely. They're over here. Now, the software doesn't work out whether your object that you want to cut is on the mat or not. It simply goes around everything that it thinks that you want to cut in your print and cut. And so the way around this is either to put this on a separate page entirely, which is an easy way around it. And it's always quite handy to have your print and cuts on one page, I find. Or if you are using this already, you go to cut selection only. And then you make sure that you have your object selected when you do your print and cut. And that way you should be okay as long as you have it set to the right print and cut print or print and cut cut or whatever it is that you need it to do. So that's to make sure that you are going to get your registration mark showing up on there, because it's really peculiar when you do your preview. You don't see the registration marks, think, where on earth have they gone? It's annoying, but it's one of those things. And the other thing that I wanted to let you know about is I'm using version 4.029. This version was only put out to download for a short period of time, and I downloaded it and I've discovered it's got a few little glitches that I'm not particularly keen on, and yeah, they're being sorted out. But one of the glitches that you probably may not realise until you go to do a print and cut, and I went and tried to do a print and cut this morning and I was tearing my hair out, was that when I went to do my print and cut was off. And I don't just mean a little bit, I mean way off. And what had happened was that I went to look at the calibration settings, which I had fortunately got written down. I went to the edit values, and in here was 0, and in here was 0. And of course that is definitely not going to give me a good result. So I put in the values that I had written down and everything's back to normal. So yeah, just be wary. If you get a problem, check them. And if you haven't done a print and cut for a while, it's a good idea to check them regardless, just in case anything has shifted, okay? So I'm going to cancel that and I'm going to go back to this page. Now what I did with this particular file was I used some stencil lettering to put the happy birthday across the front. Now you have to remember that you split it, line it up at the front and make sure that you don't dislodge on the line, that you don't dislodge them and put one up above the other. Okay, so when you separate them, just separate them and move them to side with the keys on your keyboard or whatever, and do it that way. If you try and line it up afterwards and then use these to centralize it, you'll probably find they're not in the right place because of the way the letters are. Like certain letters have got tails and certain letters are higher, and it'll completely mess them up. So just do it by the keys, and make sure that when you're doing your file again, to select your fold lines and group them and mark them as fold lines or score lines, so that you have the option of switching them on and off more easily, and then you can make sure that you don't cut them. And how do I know that? Take a guess. I've done that many a time before. So I cut this out a card, and I have my score lines in, and I cut this as a print and cut. This I cut in a red foil that I happen to have, and this is an amended piece. I cut my inside pieces before in separate pieces, but it didn't easily cover the lettering, so I've readjusted the file and put it in one piece. And then this is simply a shadow piece. Whoops. And if I move that to the front, and it simply gets stuck on there on top of the band that I put around the whole card. Okay, so I'm going to give you the file, but you'll have to go to my blog to download the file if you want it. And yeah, hope you like it. Thanks very much for watching. Take care. Bye bye.